Day 67 in the frozen wastelands. I once left from the happy warmth of the gathering hub in search of an elusive creature, though how elusive we were not prepared for. For the first few days, we hunted, gathering all the raw meat that we could from the popo of the region. But eventually, the weather made our weapons entirely freeze over, so I had to befriend them instead. I still plan to kill them, but through a much more deep, spiraling group assassination plot instead. What? Ladies, gentlemen, and monsters of all ages, I hope you're ready for some furiously exciting exploration into the depths of the monster that is Frostfang Barioth. All of today, including this wonderful showcase of all of your favorite gifts a monster has to bear. The weapons.
This weapon is your life.
And this, of course, includes all of the various upgrades for different categories. So if you've ever thought to yourself, hey, I wish my weapon was cold and furry, today is absolutely the day for you. For the rest of us, it's still the day for you. Time doesn't change simply because of your individual preferences. But of course, the show must go on. And today's show is all about showing you the different weapons and their statistics, as well as ranking each of them from worst to best, visually speaking. So to start off then, generally across the weapons, how good are they? I'll get into these specific weapon notes as we get to them in the list itself, but as far as general weapons, they are pretty damn solid.
Like ice.
They have some of the highest ice elements in the game, not quite literally the highest, some beat them out, but they also have an absolutely gargantuan amount of raw on them for a weapon that will be mostly elementally focused, as well as 15% base positive affinity to give your set a little boost, and just a touch of innate purple sharpness, with far more of it being available through ranks of handicraft for melee weapons. They are rarity 11, which means you can have a bit more fun messing around with the augments to further customize your build than a rarity 12 weapon, and the weapons don't have any slots, which can be a bit limiting when compared to most of our recent weapons, including things like the Raging Brachydios and Elatrion weapons with all of their jewel spaces. Nah, these ones are absolutely slot free, but that's part of the payment for just the amount of raw statistics in this thing. So what does this amount to as far as challenging the actual meta as a whole? Well, it is somewhat weapon dependent, but for the most part this offers a new ice element option to just everyone. This won't be an upgrade for your purely raw attack build, but if you happen to use this weapon in the same build as your raw attack build, but against a monster that is super weak to ice, it would still be overall more damage than a lot of weapons that have slightly higher raw attack, just because that's the way that damage works in the game. As far as being the king of ice element weapons, it isn't quite there, simply because Kiara weapons exist, though its numbers are a fair whack higher, and it could shake up the meta for sure in a slightly different set. More than anything though, what this offers is more options. The actual number difference between a set using these weapons and other weapons are like 1% or 2% in the long run, but this means that you can use different builds to accomplish those same ideas, allowing a bit more variety into your life, though there are some special implications here for certain weapons. Visually speaking, these weapons are basically what would happen if you took these Barioth weapons and covered them in fur and ice. So, you know, a pretty darn good representation of Frostfang himself.
I was frozen today!
So to list them for you in my personal favorite order from worst to best, let's begin with
Heavy Bogun.
Honestly, it's not bad, which is great to be able to say about weapon number 14, but it's just sort of super basic. It's just a thin, long metal gun with scales and fur along the sides. It looks good, but it doesn't look like a unique model weapon to me. And to be completely honest with you, it doesn't even really look like a heavy bowgun to me. It looks way more like a light bowgun. As for ammo, this is mainly intended to be an ice element gun, though while it can do things like sprint ammo, it just has weaker raw attacks than the other spread ammo options, which leaves it a little bit subpar. It also has access to a fairly large inventory of slicing ammo, which is cool, but for a heavy bowgun, you can't quite get the right mods to reduce the recoil or reload a significant enough amount to make it quite worth using as a full-on build, at least in my opinion as a novice gunner.
Sword and shield.
It's good, it looks nice, but it's the same base Barioth sword and shield from before, but with slightly darker metal and a bit of ice, but like, why doesn't it get any fur? What's up with that? It's furless, and for me, one of my favorite parts about Frostfang Barioth is in fact his fur. This is simply
Unacceptable!
Great sword.
I'm sorry, Josh, but I don't mean I'm sorry for rating the greatsword here. No, I mean I'm sorry that your weapon, the greatsword, didn't get a better look. Again, don't get me wrong, it looks pretty dang good. And this one even gets some fur on it too. But the main thing is, just compared to what we have in store, compared to the other weapons ahead of us, this one is just a little bit simple. Not that there's anything particularly wrong with that.
Light Bogun.
This is when we start to get to the ones that I actively enjoy looking at, and this one is honestly because of the fur. Like, the scales are nice, the way it cuts into a bladed underside looks pretty cool, but the whole fluffy mop coming off of the back of the rifle looks like a mini Bonneborough tail, and I can absolutely get behind that any day of the week. While, as you may expect, this weapon does really well with freeze ammo, like easily one of the best ice light bowguns in the game if you build for that, it also has a bit of a hidden talent in slicing ammo. Just like the heavy bowgun, you have an unusually high amount of slicing ammo storage. When that is combined with the ability to lower both your recoil and reload significantly using the custom mods, the weapon's decently high raw attack, like one of the higher raw attacks in the game, and innate affinity to push you in the right direction, you can really make a good, viable, usable slicing ammo build in Iceborne with this, and that is an exciting thing for me to be able to say.
Switch Axe.
I do quite like this weapon. It definitely looks colder than its base Barioth counterpart, which is a big plus, but I must say that I would far prefer a good bit of fur to further differentiate it from the base game version. As you may expect, given how elementally focused these weapons are, this Switch Axe is, of course, also power element file based.
Lance.
I love the regular Barioth lance, and like, nothing against the Frostfang lance, but there's something about the orange and the regular one that makes it so much more appealing to me. Like, I get that you have to make it accurately represent the monster it is from, so you have to have the beige of this tusk, but I just find it looking less visually pleasing to me than the old orange. This ice looks great, and hey, I guess there is at least a small amount of fur too, which is very good as far as I'm concerned. This thing is, however, hard carried by the overall shape and design though. It does look particularly badass compared to a lot of other weapons.
Gunlance.
And this thing is straight up gorgeous to me. The extra shine of the icy sheen on top of the whole thing, the well-shaped blades all over it, and the little details that Gunlance gets to show the actual functionality of the object as a firearm. It looks great and in my opinion just far better than the lance.
How could you say that?
It is also worth noting that not only is this weapon normal shelling level 7, but it is also technically a slight upgrade over the Stygian and Ogre Gunlance, and that they have the exact same raw attack number as a base, but the Frostfang weapon is rarity 11 and can therefore take more attack augments to make it even stronger. But then on top of that, it not only has a higher element value, but a more valuable element in general, as a lot of monsters are weak to ice, especially compared to the only 2 that are weak to dragon. So this is a reasonable upgrade for specifically normal Gunlance. Enjoy that one, guys.
Bow.
This one is just straight up gorgeous. The fact that the arrow fires through a tiny jaw with the frosty fangs going on through, the beauty of the general shape of this bow, and the Barioth scales, but just the massive amount of fur as well. Like, they put almost as much as fur here as not fur on this weapon, and I am super behind that. The fur is great. So just as a whole, this weapon is quite pleasing to have around.
Charge Blade.
This is another one that is quite close to the original design, but there's just something so enticing about the way that they've modified it for Charge Blade specifically. First off, making it way pointier, as the shield just has this whole spiked blade thing coming out of the top, but the way that they messed with the texture of the sword itself makes it look so goddamn good. Like that dark metal into the ice on such a large, undistracting blade, it looks so good. And then of course, the frosty tusks for added flavor once more. I do hope you're ready for a surprise though, because this Charge Blade, well, it uses impact files, surprisingly. It has hefty ice element, but impact files, which is a really strange decision in my mind, especially considering that it has a fair whack lower attack than the current best impact file Charge Blade that we have. But I guess it now fills that very, very unique niche of impact file Charge Blade, but with good element damage on the melee attacks, so that's a thing.
Congratulations, I think you found the world's thinnest argument.
Hunting Horn.
Then we have the hunting horn, which just looks absolutely great, and this is a brand new one, as previously we didn't have a unique Barioth hunting horn in Iceborne, and by God, it fits the brand perfectly. Just a big, meaty instrument covered in pointy bits, scales, and fur. It's just plain nice. As for the melodies, well, I'm sorry to say, it's a little unusual to say the least. Elemental effectiveness up is very cool. It's nice to see that on more horns these days, but you have 3 methods of achieving attack up small, and you have fire resistance large, so yeah, that's something to work with, I guess. Maybe someone who plays hunting horn more than me thinks this is great and can tell me why, but from where I'm standing, this song list is definitely a little lackluster.
Longsword.
And here is where we get to the truly spectacular looking ones, guys. I am in love with this longsword design. It is so unusual. There was previously a unique longsword design for base Barioth, but this one takes it even a step further. Not overly realistic, but not silly either. It's over the top, but in a way that just drips cool, or at least it would if the cool wasn't frozen solid onto the edge of the blade. The tuft of fur at the end of the handle makes me happy too. It's nice to see that just hanging there, but damn, just the general shape of this, the general aesthetics of the blade, everything, they knocked this one right out of the park.
Dual blades.
And if you want to talk about redesigned weapons knocking it out of the park, this is a very deserving follow-up. The base Barioth dual blades are pretty neat, very unusual, but these are just straight up frozen tusk cutlasses. Like, these look like they were ripped right out of the hand of a pirate captain known for sailing through the Arctic and killing saber-toothed tigers. These things are so damn cool. I am a big fan of their general existence.
Insect glaive.
And this one is just gorgeous too. Another one that is an enhanced version of a unique design that was already in the game, making it a double-sided glaive instead of the single-sided before with the weird end bit. But now it has serrated frozen tusks, and boy, it looks so good. It looks great. I love double-bladed weapons, and this one is just fantastic. As well of note, the Kinsect bonus for this weapon is Spirit and Strength boost, if that affects you deeply.
Hammer.
Say what?
I know, right? Me picking the hammer for something? How unoriginal. But, well, can you blame me? This has got to be one of the prettiest weapons, like, just on an actual beauty scale in the entire game. As far as I'm concerned, at least, it's a classic mace shape that isn't on a whole lot else in the game, but then scaled up to be absolutely massive, covered in scales and fur. And to top it all off, the 4 blades on the sides of the mace are, each one, a serrated and shaped Frostfang. It just, like, if I knew absolutely nothing about the monster that this weapon came from, I would be in awe of how cool this thing looks. I absolutely love it. But the fact that we do know who it came from and how that is incorporated into the design of the weapon itself, it's perfect. It is perfect. And in my opinion, it is without a doubt the best of Frostfang's weapons. And that just about covers it, everyone. Everything that you need to know about every single one of Frostfang Barioth's weapons, from the stats to the visuals. And what a beautiful collection of updated weapons we have too, isn't it? Do you like them as much as I do? How do you feel about this monster's addition to the game as a whole? Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. This is the brand new outro to tell you all the things that you do that we love, so let's start with something simple and say, oh, we love your eyes. When they're watching us play video games, when we make a bunch of jokes that are kinda lame, or when they gaze upon our failures as we try to kill the monsters or report important news about the Kingdom Animalia. Rage, Continent, Hollow, we're all here, talking about the things you want to hear. So if you want to be the first to hear, like and subscribe and the bell and we'll cheer. Some of you are patrons, even though we are all the noobs and you're the pros. There's nothing we can do to thank you. No, really, there's nothing we could possibly do. Goodbye.